Alright, what's going on everyone? Today, I'm going to show you how to upgrade the Ajani Inspiring Leader Planeswalker Deck. As always, do keep in mind that these are not intended to be tier 1 competitive decks. If you want that, consider checking out the latest tournament results. What we'll be doing is upgrading this deck card by card, sticking to this deck's themes, and doing it on a budget as we will not exceed the retail price of this deck with our upgrades. Also, 2 quick notes. As I've been saying, if you want the most competitive deck out of the box, I highly recommend the challenger decks because they're amazing. They will be rotating in a couple months, but these are released every single year and I highly recommend keeping an eye on them. I will leave links in the description to those if you want to check them out. Also note that standard is rotating in a couple months, so be careful about spending too much money on a standard deck because in October, standard will be rotating and many cards will be illegal for standard play in DCI sanctioned tournaments. So anyway, the Ajani Inspiring Leader Planeswalker deck is a mono white deck that is heavily rooted in life gain, as you can see with cards like Savannah Sage and Dawning Angel, which let you gain life. Now there is an old saying in Magic the Gathering: you cannot win a game of Magic by gaining life. While this is technically true, this deck offers us payoffs for gaining life in the form of Angel of Vitality and Twin Blade Paladin. Both of these cards get more powerful if we can sustain a life total above 25. The Angel becomes a 4/4 flyer and the Paladin gets double strike. They also have abilities that make gaining life more powerful. The Angel lets us gain more life every single time we gain life, and the Paladin gets a +1/+1 counter, which makes that double strike all the more dangerous. This is still a really sketchy strategy though, because not only do we have to reach 25 life, but we have to try to stay there while our opponent is dealing damage to us. That's a lot to ask. I mean, just winning a game of Magic is tough as it is, but trying to beat an opponent while staying 5 points above your starting life total is a monumental task. That's going to be difficult, but it does seem to be what this deck wants to try to do, so let's do that. So first off, we'll take out 3 Fencing Aces for 3 Ajani's Pridemate. Fencing Ace doesn't do anything in this deck, but Ajani's Pridemate will get a +1/+1 counter every time we gain life. So it basically gives us another way to potentially win the game, especially since we're going to be putting a ton of ways to gain life repeatedly, so the Pridemate can get super out of control. It's going to be a major threat in this deck. Next, we're going to take out one of the Daybreak Chaplains for a 4th Ajani's Pridemate. The Daybreak Chaplain is just kind of bad. I mean, I guess it's kind of okay as a defensive life gain source. You know, it prevents us from taking damage and it can gain a point of life, but overall I find it kind of unimpressive, so let's put in a 4th Pridemate to potentially win the game with. Seems better. Next, we're going to take out another Daybreak Chaplain for a 4th copy of Impassioned Orator. The deck comes with 3, but I definitely think it's worth going up to 4 because it allows us to gain life every single time we cast a creature. This is actually very powerful and it'll make sense when you see the rest of the deck. Just give me a second here, because we're also going to take out 4 Moment of Heroism for 4 Ajani's Welcome. The spell is pretty weak. It only gives us 2 life and it's only 1 instance of life gain, and the +2/+2 isn't that exciting either. But Ajani's Welcome, well, it's kind of a controversial card. Some people hate it, but in this deck it's pretty spicy because now we have 8 cards that have this effect, and the reason this is so crazy is how it works with Angel of Vitality. The Angel says whenever we gain life, we gain that much life +1. Now remember that Ajani's Welcome and Impassioned Orator trigger individually. So let's say we had 3 copies of either the enchantment or the creature, just any combination, and let's say we play Angel of Vitality, you would gain 1 life 3 times, and then the Angel would cause you to gain 1 extra life each time, so you'd actually gain 2 life 3 times, resulting in 6 life, just from playing a single creature. And then, yes, the Angels stack as well. So let's say in that scenario you play another Angel, you'll gain 1 life +1/+1. So that's 3 life 3 times for 9 life. So the combination of playing creatures and getting 1 life triggers for every single Ajani's Welcome and Impassioned Orator, and then having the Angel of Vitality, basically doubling and tripling that life gain can actually get pretty crazy. And for that reason, I'll be taking out another one of the Daybreak Chaplains for a 4th Angel of Vitality. I think we just demonstrated how powerful this is, so I don't think I really need an explanation here. You want 4 copies of Angel of Vitality. It's kind of what this deck is built around anyway, and it can get kind of crazy with all of the life gainy things. And this gets even crazier because next we're going to take out 3 Dawning Angels for 3 Leonin War Leaders. The Dawning Angels only give us that single instance of life gain that we really don't like, and the War Leaders, well, it's a 4 mana 4/4 that when it attacks, we get to put 2 tokens into play that are tapped and attacking. That means we get to double trigger our Impassioned Orator and Ajani's Welcome. And then those tokens have lifelink, so even if they smash into a giant creature and get killed instantly, we still get to gain 2 life at the very least. So Leonin War Leader is, by itself, it's a standalone threat. It's basically putting 6 power out, and it can also overwhelm the opponent with tokens if they can't block them. If we can attack freely with it for a couple turns, it can just get out of hand by itself, but it also gives us tons of ways to activate all of our other stuff in the deck, so it works pretty well. Next we're going to take out 4 Savannah Sages for 4 Healer's Hawk. So the problem with the Sages, once again, is it only gives us that single instance of life gain, whereas the Healer's Hawk can allow us to gain life every single turn. It's also a flyer, so it can more consistently get damage through to our opponent. I will say that Soulmender works well here as well, and I debated for a long time which is the better choice. Soulmender allows us to gain life more reliably since it doesn't need to attack, whereas the Hawk can be turned off if our opponent has something to block with. However, the Hawk is more proactive in killing our opponent, whereas the Soulmender basically only gains life and isn't likely to get through for much damage. However, the Soulmender can be activated before combat to pump up a Pridemate or a Paladin, and the Hawk can't. And then on the other hand, if you're going to just gain 1 life per turn with the Soulmender, then why not just play Fountain of Renewal, which basically does the same thing but is less vulnerable to removal and can be sacrificed for a card if necessary. Yeah, see, honestly, I think all 3 of these are perfectly fine in this slot, so this is probably a matter of personal preference, but I like the Healer's Hawk because it can dish out some damage over the course of a game, so I'm going with that personally, but honestly, yeah, either of those other 2 cards are probably okay as well, so yeah. I also want to take out the final Daybreak Chaplain for Dawn of Hope. So this enchantment doesn't let us gain life directly, but it allows us to produce tokens that have lifelink, which basically gives us a constant stream of potential life gain, not only because the token itself can gain life, but also from triggering Ajani's Welcome and Impassioned Orator when it enters the battlefield, and then it allows us to pay 2 whenever we gain life to draw a card, and that can be a lifesaver in the late game as it allows us to refill our hand and flood the board when resources start to run thin and our mana starts to pile up. Now late in the game you get more and more mana and you run out of cards in hand, and it starts getting a little bit sketchy. You start getting into those top deck wars where both players are out of cards and who can top deck the best thing, and this thing can just let you churn through cards, gain a bunch of life, churn through more cards, and that can turn the tide of battle in the late game. So I don't want 4 of these in the deck, but a couple are nice. So for that reason, I'm also going to take out a single plains for 1 more of these Dawn of Hopes, because again, we basically never want more than 1 of these. There's diminishing returns, 2 of them, that it doesn't do quite as much, but I think having 2 will give us a reasonable enough chance to draw 1 in the late game without flooding us with a card that doesn't do much in multiples. So 2 is the perfect number for these. And that's it. That is all of our upgrades. If you want to put more money into this deck, the big one that we couldn't afford was Lyra Dawnbringer. She is fantastic at the top end. She's a massive threat that can absolutely win games single-handedly, and she's a fantastic replacement for Sarah's avatar, which is probably the worst card in the deck at the moment. So yeah, just a clear improvement there. Though do keep in mind that the Dawnbringer is very expensive and also rotating out of standard in a couple months, so probably not worth it if you're playing in DCI sanctioned tournaments, because this thing will not be legal for very much longer. stronger. Safari is also a decent replacement for the avatar. I just don't know if we have enough flyers to reliably cast it, but it's a 7/7 with flying and lifelink. It also makes all of our other flyers indestructible, so that's pretty cool. And I also think that Legion's Landing could be good in this deck. It puts out a 1/1 with lifelink, so that's perfectly fine as a 1-drop, but if we can flip it, it gives us a repeatable way to generate tokens in the same way that Dawn of Hope does. We get the token triggers, you know, from Ajani's Welcome and whatnot, but also the tokens have lifelink, so this is pretty fantastic. I think it could be pretty decent in this deck and could probably go in the spots that Dawn of Hope or Healer's Hawks are taking. I also really think this deck needs something like Settle the Wreckage. The problem with this deck is you run the risk that your opponent will put enough power in play to outpace your life gain. And if that happens, the tide will turn and you will start losing the game. So having a way to wipe your opponent's board is a fantastic way to fix this problem. And I think Settle the Wreckage is the type of card that will prevent you from losing against green decks in particular. Being able to wipe out all of your opponent's stuff while not touching your own is great. The problem is, once again, this card is rotating in a couple months, but fortunately it is down to like, I think they're $1.50 to $2 each right now, so they're not terribly expensive, and you know, this will be a lifesaver for sure against decks that put out big creatures that start to outpace your life gain. You could also probably upgrade the Ajani in the deck with some of the other main set Ajanis and standard at the moment. Strength of the Pride in particular is pretty crazy because you can gain a ton of life with its +1 ability, and its -2 ability actually pumps out Ajani's Pride Mates, which is actually kind of crazy. The Pride Mate is a legitimate threat in this deck, and being able to just produce them with a Planeswalker is kind of great. So yeah, Ajani Strength of the Pride, pretty fantastic. Definitely an upgrade in my opinion. If you do take out Ajani, that renders the gold main Griffins useless, and they can be replaced with things like Lyra Dawnbringer or Resplendent Angel on the expensive side, or possibly those Settle the Wreckage we were talking about just a second ago. A 4th Twinblade Paladin would be fine here as well, and if you want to go super budget, Herald of Faith is a strictly better improvement if you don't have Ajani, because it gives you an extra point of power and a constant stream of life gain for the same mana cost. Herald of Faith is not the greatest card ever, but it is strictly better than the Griffin if you don't have Ajani, so yeah, you might as well. Anyway, I do think that covers everything, so there you go. Life gain isn't typically a tier 1 strategy, and I don't think we'll be winning a pro tour with this thing, but what we have now is way more powerful than what we started with, and it doesn't cost us an arm and a leg to get here, so that's pretty good. Hopefully that makes the deck far more powerful and far more consistent without costing $400 like your average standard competitive tier 1 deck. So there you go. And if you like these Planeswalker deck upgrade videos and want to see more of them, I have an entire playlist dedicated to them, and you can find a link to it in the description below. You'll also find my Amazon affiliate link. Literally anything you buy on Amazon after clicking that link, magic related or not, helps me buy expensive crap I need to produce videos, and it doesn't cost you any extra, so it's a free way to show your support, and I appreciate it. Also consider subscribing for more upgrade guides in the future, but in the meantime, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.